The Wars of the Roses, England's most chaotic family feud. A battle of light and dark, or shall we say, white and red. The story from Game of Thrones, but real. Welcome back to another episode of Kate Plus 8. Today we're diving into one of the most dramatic periods of the conflict, where betrayal, battles, and a lot of beheadings shaped the fate of the English throne. Again. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this one's a roller coaster. And really, the entire story has been. So many ups and downs, new kings and queens, and with twists and turns everywhere. It's hard to imagine there could ever be a true end to the story. If you're new here, welcome to Kronos History, where we break down the greatest moments in history and turn them into greater stories. Whether you're bored, learning, or somewhere in between, we've got something cooked up for you to keep you entertained. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. So, where the heck did we leave off? Well, at one point, England was a European force to be reckoned with, winning championships left and right. That is, until they decided to start fighting amongst themselves. Why on earth would you do that? Yeah, that's because the OG king started producing too many royal children, and some of them were finna get jealous. Not to mention the difficulty of pinpointing the true royal lineage. There became two branches of the family, each with a solid argument for heirship. It was like the MJ versus LeBron debate. Nevertheless, we ended up with the House of Lancaster and House of York becoming vicious enemies. Team Red Rose and Team White Rose would go on to fight tooth and nail to occupy the English throne and even risk their lives for it. Many times. The debauchery gave rise to some of our most beloved heroes from episodes 1 and 2, and for some, also brought their demise. Like Richard, Duke of York, who thought he had a real shot at the throne. That is, until he got absolutely wrecked at the Battle of Wakefield. Embarrassing as it was for Team White Rose, Richard's death embarked his son, the aura merchant, on a quest to absolutely body his ops, resulting in some of the most remarkable W's for the Yorkist collective. This man was Edward Plantagenet. He made it out of the trenches to become king not once, but twice. That's like being awarded Rookie of the Year and then Comeback Player of the Year, back to back. Not any glaze, but homie was just unstoppable. In the end of episode 2, his comeback resulted in the obliteration of the Lancastrians and the deaths of King Henry, his son, and the capture of Margaret of Anjou. Richard Neville tried to snake Edward and switch sides, which turned out to be a mistake considering he also got full-on smoked. It's like straight up diabolical carnage out here. I guess it's like that old saying, all is fair in love and war, or whatever. And only one question remains. Does this mean the kids have finally stopped fighting, now that they have literally murdered each other with knives? Will the House of York make England great again, and will anyone be left to oppose King Edward? And what kind of psycho would even try at this point? I hear you. Dude, that was like 8 questions. But look, this just proves anything is possible, and I bet you will never guess what happens next. Edward IV wasn't just a warrior king, he was a strategist. First order of business, get rid of any Lancastrian resistance. Second order, fix England's economy. Third order, make sure nobody betrays him. Easy, right? Well, actually it kinda was. After gently taking the throne in 1471, he carried England for over 10 years. In that time, he put in work and kept it pushing, ranging from improvements to the tax collection system, reducing corruption, to encouraging trade with other European states. He made many changes that contributed to strengthening what had become a single central authority. He formed an alliance with Burgundy by marrying Elizabeth Woodville and put the people on art, literature, and architecture. Word on the street was he lived a luxurious lifestyle, like hosting big ol' feasts while having a glass of wine, or 7. Man was roddy rich, but without the roddy part. As it turns out, peace was possible all along, even if we had to do some stabbing to get there. After years of successful leadership, in 1483, Edward IV suddenly dies. And guess what? His 12-year-old son, Edward V, is supposed to take over. Imagine this little jit enjoying his childhood thinking everything's all good, but then his pops kicks the bucket and suddenly he's tasked with running a whole kingdom. To make matters worse, his weird uncle, Richard of Gloucester, aka Richard III, is like, nah, I'll hold on to that for you. And by hold on to that, we mean he locks Edward and his brother in the Tower of London and they disappear forever. I mean, little bro was probably still learning how to hold his crayons, and next thing you know, there's grown-ass men trying to run his pockets. What was he even supposed to do? Now, you might be thinking, okay, the Yorkists eliminated the Lancasters, King Edward is in heaven, there is a new king in place, so we're done, right? No, because off in exile, Henry Tudor is waiting for his moment. He's been basically chilling in France, eating baguettes, and plotting his future. His mom, Margaret Beaufort, is working behind the scenes, making deals, and setting him up to be a serious contender. The thing is, the Tudor family was originally in cahoots with the Team Red Rose before King Henry went on the most legendary run of the whole season. And during one of these battles, Jasper Tudor took an L along with the Red Roses. As you can imagine, there was still some beef left over on the low-key. And with the legend himself, King Henry, out of the way, the Tudors began peeping the throne heavy. Just take a wild guess how they plan to take it over. I'll wait. If you said doom and despair, you got it, partner. You're starting to catch on. Look, I get it. After everything we've been through, you've gotten attached to our beloved characters. And now some new family is gonna come in like nothing ever happened? Who do they think they are? Well, let's take a closer look here. The Tudors were a noble family who served under the Princes of Wales way back when. They were kinda like in-laws at first. And they rose up to join the Red Rose Army with Jasper Tudor leading some of the army. Jasper had a bright idea to bring peace and make this all one big weird family by arranging some marriages between the youngings. So then Jasper proposed an alliance between his nephew Henry and Elizabeth of York by pronouncing them a couple. And you will never guess who Elizabeth really was. That's right, she was none other than the daughter of the man and myth himself, King Edward, leader of the White Roses. The crazy thing is, with this hookup they could manage to turn both the Red Rose and White Rose supporters against the new king, and weird uncle Richard who took over after Edward's death. It truly was a thing of beauty. And the kicker is, if they succeeded, it would mean that there would be order in England under one big connected family, the Tudors. The only question is, how could they pull this off? You might want to take a seat, because this one's a nail-biter. Okay, for real though, this is actually the final battle, and Uncle Richard is the final boss. Henry Tudor marched his army filled with 5,000 French mercenaries and English exiles straight into England. They said, screw sneaking around, let's just go knock on the front door. But wait, there is more. He called up his homeboys, the Stanley fam, to slide on the low. But get this, the Stanleys? Yeah, they were riding with Richard, and they planned to switch sides after the battle started. They were about to catch Richard lacking and absolutely run his pockets. Old boy had no idea how dirty everyone was about to do him. When Richard pulled up, he had enough confidence to charge straight at Henry. But just like we talked about in the last 2 episodes, if you're gonna be king and you wanna win these battles, you gotta make sure the dudes you roll with ain't gonna pop your top when you ain't looking. For real though, it was too late for this guy, because the battle was basically over before it started. Sure enough, Richard is skilled in battle, and to top it all off, Henry Tudor is crowned Henry VII right there and then. And with that, our question is finally answered. Could the Tudors really pull it off? Yes, they absolutely could. So now what? They made their alliances, proved their might, and crowned a new king. What's left for them to do? Well, Henry goes on and marries Elizabeth of York, combining the Red Rose of Lancaster and the White Rose of York into the famous Tudor Rose. And just like that, the Wars of the Roses are officially over. Just like that, 30 years of violence solved with a little bit of violence. They went on to lead a peaceful life in England, and they rebuilt both the economy and authority in what became the Tudor dynasty. They slowly but surely reunited all the territories that became divided during the war and got trade back up and running. It truly was a good time for the people of England. At this point, the people were just happy that kings were no longer getting shagged left and right, and they could shoot dice with the homies without the worry of their family getting assaulted or their whole freaking town being terrorized by barbarians. This, my friends, was the end of the Wars of the Roses. And that's how a decades-long war full of betrayals, bloodshed, and family drama finally came to an end. The Tudors would rule England for over a century, bringing us Henry VIII, Elizabeth I, and a whole new set of scandals. But that's a story for another day. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and drop a comment on which historical feud you would survive. And until next time, stay out of medieval politics, because you know, it never ends well.